Welcome back, lads, to another Dauntless video. Today is the second episode of my Rate My Build series, and I've had a couple of submissions for this. If you are unaware though of what this series is about, is where you guys go into my Discord or comment on any of my videos, a build with the hashtag RMB standing for Rate My Build. I'll then do a video on that particular build and just basically discuss it, give it a rating, and just generally how I think the build actually works. Today we've got a submission from Adala, someone who's really always speaking in my Discord, so I appreciate that, and also thank you for the submission before we even start. She's given me an axe build, and if you're not a girl, I do apologise. I'm just assuming you are, judging by the selfies in the Discord, so I apologise if I'm wrong. But regardless, Adala, thank you again for the submission. We have a axe build, as I already mentioned. Sorry this video wasn't out sooner. I was just trying to grind my axe to level 20. I just haven't had enough time, and I wanted to give obviously the build a fighting chance and to give it the best possible test I possibly can. But starting off with the build, I will obviously leave the build in the description below if you want to copy it and not follow this guide here. But we've got the Mind Splitter's axe with Assassin's Frenzy, Conduit, Grim Onslaught, Overcharged Cylinder, and the Stalker's Mercy as the bond, giving us another +3 Assassin's Frenzy. We then got the Drast Lantern with Uthric Attunement, the Drask Head with Tenacious, the Rezakiri Chest with Conduit, the Morkarian Arms with Predator, and the Boreas Legs with Cunning. Just to let you guys know as well, there is no catalyst in this build, so I'm not even going to be running potions. If you don't put catalyst in your build, I won't be putting potions on it, but I will discuss if I think they need them. Also, if you want me to test it without having, if you want me to test a build with potions without a catalyst for some strange reason, let me know. But Adala, you didn't tell me about potions, so I didn't use any in the testing. Obviously, like I said, I will explain if I think the build needs it. But the perk summary looks like this: a +6 of Uthric Attainment, Assassin's Frenzy, Conduit, Cunning, Predator, and Tenacious. Right off the bat, I can see what she's trying to do. Conduit paired up with the Uthric Attainment, so we're going to get a nice steady pace of attack speed, obviously, and then the Assassin's Frenzy to get paired up with that when you do break parts. I'm pretty sure that's how you want this build to be played, but also at the same time you want to play Flawless, and then you just added Tenacious and Cunning for more crit damage and just more damage in general. If I was to change some things about on this build just in particular, if I'm thinking on how to run this build in particular, I would definitely change Discipline, because you've got Discipline as the Omnicell, to Iceborne, only because I don't really see the point in running extra crit chance if you are running Tenacious. But if you want to change Tenacious, then be my guest. But because I can see you've deliberately put Tenacious in here, I think Iceborne would be a much better pick. But then again, that does counteract the Predator, so it's quite a weird build in overall consensus. But I do like what you're going for with the Conduit, the Assassin's Frenzy, and obviously making the Uthric Attainment make up for the loss of not using the Ether Drive potions. Obviously right now the lanterns don't go up as much as they used to, so this build probably would have been really good back before a couple of patches ago, but because obviously the lantern charge takes so long to charge now, I think Uthric Attainment or AA or Ether Drive Tonic hasn't really got too much place in today's meta. But nevertheless, nice looking build. Let's see what I can make of it now. Let's first discuss power, and I've got the perfect battle to discuss the power rating. Stormclaw gets smacked in the head with my axe throw, and then you get this glitch where he hides behind the rock. Anyway, he doesn't attack me for the rest of the hunt, so this is a perfect opportunity to see how well the build does without potions and without actually dropping Predator. Bearing in mind I did already land a throw and I just missed loads of hits there, but it's already 3/4 health. It's level 20, I'm level 20. The build is pretty slow, but in terms of raw damage output, we are hitting consistent 2000 part damage every single hit. There isn't any increased damage when we get break parts because there is no overpower in the build, but a fully charged level 4 throw went up to 5000 there. And to be fair, Stormclaw is about to die in less than a minute, which is pretty good. But the only problem is making sure you do keep Predator. So because of that, I am only going to give it a power rating of 5, just because there is a lot better options in terms of you can keep DPS up more consistently without Predator with Axe. Moving on to the versatility of this build, and I'm going to give it a scoring of 6 out of 10. The only reason why I'm giving it this score is just because it does have a good opportunity to do a lot of DPS, especially against behemoths, which isn't even its weak counterpart in terms of, right now we're running an umbral weapon against the umbral behemoth, which shouldn't do a lot of more damage, or there is no damage buffs because it is the same element. But just for that instance, as you're going to see now, Shroud will die pretty quickly, and if you do play somewhat well, you can beat monsters, obviously, with the same counterpart of element. So that's why I'm going to give it a versatility of 6. No other reason. It can be used against any behemoth, really, just obviously as long as you can keep Predator up, meaning you will deal more damage. If you do get hit, the more times you get hit, obviously the less damage you will do over time. But it's not the biggest problem, so that's why I'm going to give it a 6 and not be too harsh on the scoring on this one. Moving on to the usefulness of the build. By this, we're talking about how well it does against just everything in the game. Can you bring it into a Malkarian fight? Can you bring it into a Tortogoro fight? Can you bring it into anything, really? And we did really just cover this in terms of versatility, but it can be used against any behemoth, really. It does do a solid job. Predator obviously just gives you bonus damage, so it doesn't really matter what behemoth you're fighting. So I am going to give it a scoring of 5 because you can beat Tortogoro and Malkarian pretty easy with this build. It has good perks in general. I think even when you lose Predator, it still does defeat behemoths in a good amount of time. It's not the worst build I've seen completely. I think it is actually pretty good if you can keep Predator up. I'm going to keep saying that. But I just don't really find Predator a big help with Axe builds. So that's why I'm probably not going to give this build a higher usefulness, only because I think there's just better perks you could use for it. As I already mentioned, Iceborne instead of Discipline I think is a lot better choice. Pairing up that with Tenacious and Tough, I think a more tankier Axe build is a lot better in today's current game. And as I already mentioned, I think this sort of build was very good for the old style of Dauntless and not so much now. Moving on to the usability, and that is how easy is this weapon to use. And obviously, Axe and Predator, I keep covering this, is really difficult to use because it's really slow, and because there isn't a lot of attack speed until you do get break parts. The initial fight can feel really sluggish, and you need to know how to act in terms of behemoth's moves, when to boop, when to dodge. And obviously every time you do get hit and you do lose Predator, you are delaying your damage or your DPS. So I am only going to give it a scoring of 3 for usability. I think it's the most weak point of the build, only because it has got such a high skill ceiling. I'm not saying that's a bad point, but for the general average player, I think they will find this build really hard to use unless they're using the Blitz Tonic for their attack speed, or using Catalyst with the Blitz Tonic. It's really slow, and yeah, I think people will find it very challenging, but at the same time it is very hard to use. Moving on to the craftability of the build, and this is how easy it is to craft for new players. As you know, the Thrax axe is a legendary weapon. We then have the Malkarian arms, which is also a legendary piece of gear. The Rezakiri chest, which is an endgame content behemoth, and then the Drask and the Boreas for the head and the leg armor pieces. They're both beginning game behemoths. Those 2 pieces are really simple to craft, no issue there. The Rezakiri you will fight when you get near endgame and when you unlock the 10 to 50 escalation, so you will fight a lot of Rezakiri anyway. And then obviously the Malkarian arms, you need I think a couple of legendary drops, which might take a while. And then same with the Thrax axe, it could take a while as well. It's not the easiest to craft, but also not the hardest to craft. I think if you're looking for a fun build, definitely go and craft it. But I am only going to give it a scoring of 6, just because there is quite a lot of endgame behemoths you have to encounter before you actually are able to craft this build. moving on to the final scores, and damn, it's been quite a weird judging actually, and it's completely different to Spelly's build. Obviously Spelly's build was more of a, let's say, meta sort of build, staple build, what everyone normally uses. This one was quite out there, very different, quite unique, and to be honest, quite nice to use and quite refreshing. I think it has quite a high skill ceiling to use, just because of how slow it actually is until you get part breaks. Plus, with considering the fact that we are running Predator with an axe, which is pretty difficult to run anyway. But yeah, I did find it really challenging and quite nice to use. But as you can see right now, the final scores will be on the screen for you right now. And as previously as the last video, to find the overall average, we add all of these together, which comes to a total of 25. And then we divide 25 by the 5 points I've discussed. And that leaves the final score of this build to be 5 out of 10. As I said, I think this was really challenging, really nice build to actually use. I haven't used something like this in a while. It's very different, it's very off meta. If you are looking for a challenge and you do like playing axe, and I think you think you're pretty good at axe, I definitely recommend playing this build, giving it a go. But once again, Adala, thanks for the submission. Obviously, guys, if you want to give me your submissions for Rate My Build series, go in my Discord in the description below, or just do comment hashtag RMB in the description below, and then followed by the build. Whatever way you like to do. I am mostly active in my Discord, and I will be checking the messages. But guys, thanks for the video. I will see you in the next one, and peace.